Today on View to a Grill, we're going to unbox, assemble, and take a walk around of the all-new Spyder Grills Huntsman. I'm Johnny. The first thing we need to do is to unbox the Spyder Grills Huntsman. It'll come in 2 boxes labeled 1 and 2. We might as well start with box number 1. Get that open and start unpacking. The main components in box 1 will be the bottom shelf and the lid. What you'll find in box 2 is going to be the bottom bowl, and inside of the bottom bowl you're going to find a whole lot of hardware and additional parts that you need to put the Spyder Huntsman grill together. As I'm going through the parts, the first thing that I see that I wasn't expecting was a little seasoning kit and a toolbox. So the Huntsman ships with everything you need, including the tools you need to put this together. Now that I have all the parts out of the box, let's go ahead and start assembling the Spyder Grills Huntsman. Spyder Grills makes this easy by giving us some really great detailed instructions. We're going to go ahead and remove the bottom bowl from the box number 2. Since I'm alone, I'm going to have to be a little creative and just roll the bottom bowl out onto some of the foam just so I don't scratch the grill. Now we can get the plastic off and have our first good look at what the grill is looking like. Now we can install the Venom fan controller. And to do that, you're going to want to slide this back tab into this receiver, and then the front tabs will line up so that you can just clip them on. Once we have those clipped on, we can snugly tighten those bolts on both sides. Then we can attach our latch on this vent slide and try it out. Look at that, a nice smooth motion. Now we have our 3 legs. We can go ahead and get those into the receiving holes. For the leg shelves, I'm going to use the shorter bolts and a flat washer. Now we have to attach the bottom shelf. One of the things you have to remember is we're just fitting it together, so we want to leave all of the bolts kind of loose. Since we left those initial bolts kind of loose, we can then have some wiggle room to install the bottom shelf. Now is a good time to snugly tighten all of the bolts for the legs. So now that we're done with our first 4 steps, let's look at 5, 6, 7, and 8. Let's get our casters and screw those on to each one of the legs. Once we have those on nice and snug, let's turn over the Spyder Grill Huntsman onto its wheels. And this is when I realized how heavy this grill is going to be once it's all put together. Now that we have it flipped over, let's install the ash bucket. Now that we have the ash bucket installed, let's move on to steps 9, 10, 11, and 12. This whole hinge assembly has a little weight to it, so if you're doing it by yourself, you're going to have to hold that in place while you guide those bolts in. The instructions say to just use the longer bolts and a spring washer for this. It'll take 6 bolts for you to secure the bottom half of the hinge to the bottom half of the Kamado. You want it to be secure, but to leave all of the bolts loose. Once you have the bottom half attached, go ahead, grab your lid and just set that on top of the bottom bowl. And then slowly tighten the bolts. Make sure the lid stays lined up and adjust that lid accordingly. The hardest part was getting this pin out of the hinge assembly. What you need to do is there's a bolt on the bottom of that cylinder. Just tighten that up. Not extremely tight. Use that ratchet that the Spyder Grills came with and just kind of tapped it up a little bit just to unlock it. And then with some finagling, you can pull that pin out. When I first did that, I didn't think that pin was going to come out. But after finding that sweet spot, tightening the bolt on the bottom, it eventually did come out. And now we're almost there. All we have to do is install the remaining hardware, which just includes some covers, things like that, including the little hook for your ash sweeper. Then finally, the vent just rests right there on top. There it is, your completed Spyder Grills Huntsman assembly. Now that we have the Spyder Grills Huntsman assembled, let's just take a closer look at all of the features on this grill. It's a pleasant surprise when you get something that you don't expect. Here's a nice look at the casters. You can easily lock and unlock them. I didn't expect to have these heavy duty casters and to have the quality of the casters that I got. The bottom shelf has this diamond pattern, which I do like because it doesn't collect water. Here's a closer look at the ash pan. When you install and uninstall the ash pan, it actually is a little difficult because they're making the seal on this ash pan airtight because you don't want any air leaks. You want the venom to control all the air intake so that it can control the temperature better. Here is the ash sweep handle, and the movement of this is incredibly smooth. Here's a little interesting feature. You can actually use another brand's air controller in here if you want to through this port. Now we can take a look at the door hinge and look how industrial that looks. Not only does Spider Grills want this to perform well, they want this to be the bling on your patio. And then here along the front waist of the grill, you're going to find that huge door to where you can add more fuel or wood. I'd say if this is the waist, then this is that big ass cowboy belt buckle. Looks like they just won the Spider Rodeo. Now the door handle is huge, fits well in your hand, and the door just swings right open. And then on the back side of the door, you have these reinforcement bars, and that's just going to keep the door from warping. Now if we look inside, you can see this huge area. To close the door, you are going to have to compress that gasket a little bit and then turn the handle. On both sides, you'll find these bolts, and I'm guessing maybe that's for the rotisserie or something they have planned in the future. So here's your ash sweep, just hangs on the side. That metal cylinder on the lid handle rotates so that it doesn't slide in your hands. Now I'm carrying a camera right now. I don't know if you'll be able to do this when it's hot. I can use the back of my hand to flip the little latch up. Now the Huntsman comes with a temperature probe, and you can either install that on the side or you can choose to install it right here on the back of the Huntsman. Now here's a better look at that hinge, piston, cylinder, I don't even know what to call it, thing. And then right on top, you can see the logo of the Spider Grills Huntsman, and it kind of reminded me, yeah, I see what you did there, Spider Grills. That's where you got the logo. Pretty cool. The lid doesn't move. I'm curious to know if at some point in the future if that's going to need some adjustment or not. Now I know some of you are going to be wondering if Weber stuff fits on there. Here is my Grillo Grills grill grate that works with the S&S Deluxe basket. It does not quite fit in, so I won't be able to use that with this grill. Now the Weber Master Touch grill grates, it goes in, but the doors don't shut. So you won't be able to use that either. Now my grill grate grates, these are the ones that work with the Weber 22-inch, and they work with the Spider Grills as well. So that's pretty cool. Now we can take a look at the Spider grill grates, and they're made of stainless, and they are super thick and heavy. If you kind of rub your fingers along the edges, it's actually quite sharp. This is the grill grate ring that they sit on, and at the bottom, the grill grates are super heavy duty. Try to wiggle them around, and they don't. They fit perfectly. Now I don't have any of the accessories that come with the Spider Grills Huntsman right now. Hopefully I can get some, because I'd love to see how everything fits together once you have all the accessories. Here's a good look at the fire chamber. Extremely spacious. The inside of that lid hinge, I think that's a date, 2024, October the 10th. Maybe that's my Spider Grills birthday. What do you think? If it is, we're going to have a birthday party. And right now I'm just showing you stuff. Here's what it looks like from the inside for the door latch. Here's what the vent looks like from under the lid. And there is the thermometer probe from the old school thermometer. This is the lid gasket to keep everything airtight. And here's what it rests on. Look how thick it is compared to my finger. There's a lot of metal in this cooker. Here's the top vent, and it just installs by setting it on there. Gravity is all you need. Here's the Spider Grills old school thermometer, and this is the Spider Grills Huntsman, all put together looking like the star of your backyard. And just for fun, here's what a 14-pound brisket looks like on the Spider Grills Huntsman. And this is what a couple of racks of baby back ribs look like on the Spider Grill Huntsman. Now, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, you're going to miss a couple of cooks on this Spider Grills. Go ahead, like and subscribe. Thank you for watching A View to a Grill. I'll see you guys next time. Take care, y'all.